This is Personal Injury Court.
This is the matter of Gray versus Henderson. Mrs. Gray, I understand that you are here suing Mr. Henderson for a pretty bad nose injury that you sustained while at his haunted house. I've looked at the court documents, you've submitted your bills and some other documents. It's my understanding that you are suing for $38,000 in medical bills, $8,000 in lost wages, and $50,000 for pain and suffering, for a total of $96,000. Now, Mr. Henderson, it's my understanding that you say she was there to be scared, not your fault. This is her doing. Well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, Miss Gray, tell me how we got here.
My best friend and I have been best friends for
Since third grade.
Since third grade, yes. So
y'all even look at each other with love.
Yes. Everyone knows that where Janine is, Heather will be too. Heather here is a bit of a fright freak. We are best friends, but we're very different in our taste of excitement. So she loves those kind of things, and I do not. But Heather won 2 tickets for this haunted house, and everyone was talking about it, our other friends. So I was really excited. So I was
Did you go to last year's?
I did not. I've never been.
So you really didn't know what to expect?
Yeah, not at all, because, I always skip it. So I decided to go, and we planned, and I was actually really excited.
Now, Mr. Henderson, how long you been running this haunted house?
Your Honor, we've been in business for over 17 years now.
And what's the goal?
We're all about the experience. We want every person that crosses our threshold to feel like they just to come to an event. So we lay it on thick. We hire the best costumed actors to portray our characters. 17 years, we've never had an issue.
Tell me this. Most of the haunted houses I've been to are these kind of warehouses that they rent for a couple days around Halloween, and you go in there and people scare the hell out of you. Was it that kind of thing? Dark and, creepy?
Yes, it was very dark. There were a lot of attractions. They did put a lot of effort into it.
Okay. Well, it harkens me back, because I've got 3 sons. I used to take them there. I was always worried about them getting away from me, because they were certainly going to get scared.
Right.
But it was always very dark.
Yes, a lot of strobing lights and then loud noises, scary noises.
I see Mr. Henderson nodding. That's really the atmosphere.
Yeah. I mean, you come to a haunted house to be frightened. I mean, that's the whole intent and purpose of a haunted house.
And you knew that, right?
Yes.
You knew you were going to be scared.
Yeah, so I definitely knew I was going to be scared. So I get ready. We get there. She shows the free VIP tickets.
Why VIP? What did that allow you to do that the regular folks don't get to do?
They took us through a separate entrance, which was great.
Were you excited?
Yes, I was excited.
Was Heather excited?
Of course I was.
How long had you been inside before the bad stuff happened?
Probably about 10 minutes, taking our time, going through the different rooms and attractions. And so we get...
And you had been scared, right? You've been in there a while, things are jumping out at you.
Yes.
So what happened?
So we get into this hallway, and it was very, very dark, and we get separated. We lose each other, and that's when everything changed.
Did getting separated from Heather add to you being insecure in this place?
Yes, absolutely. I was only there in the first place because of her and for her. So I'm looking for Heather. I am overwhelmed, freaking out right now. Then to make everything worse, a chainsaw guy jumps in front of me with his chainsaw, and it's loud, and he's coming at me.
Scared the hell out of you.
Scared the hell out of me, Your Honor. And my reaction was to back up. And then I feel something on my shoulder.
What did you feel?
There are hands, hairy hands.
Okay.
Look back. It's a werewolf character, huge werewolf character, touching me, and I immediately freak out and run. That's Did
you know where you were running to?
No idea. I couldn't even see. It was pitch black.
You're just running away from the werewolf.
Of course, I was running away. I wanted to get away from him.
And so you start running, then what happened?
So I run, and as soon as I start running, I hit a brick wall.
Now you can see from the size of my nose and playing football in college, I've broken that nose a couple times, so I'm feeling those days. What were you feeling when you hit that wall?
Immediate shock and a lot of pain. You broke your nose. I'm sure you understand, Your Honor. It's a very painful situation. A lot of blood.
This looks like it hurts today.
Yes, it does. blood everywhere. I'm very dizzy from the concussion.
Okay.
And I'm just distraught at this point.
Now, Mr. Henderson, do you remember when this incident happened?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Take me to that night.
I was on the premises that night, but I was not in the vicinity when it happened. I became aware of it through Mr. Grieco and Mr. Powell here, who were present when the incident occurred, sir.
Okay.
And, well, you know, I just got to say this. Ms. Gray knew what she was getting into, Your Honor.
She knew she was going to be scared, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, you're not saying that she would know she's going to have a broken nose at the end of the day, right?
No,
I
Your
hope
Honor,
not.
no. But what I am asserting is that this broken nose is due to her own negligence. She knew what she was getting into.
Excuse me?
You still got a little bit of the black eyes and this bandage.
Yes, so what happened was they tried to fix it.
This is you right here?
Yes.
Now, how fresh is this? Is this that day or the next day or something?
I believe that's the next day. Yes, the
I
next
see
morning.
they've actually got packing in your nose.
Yes, they were trying to fix it without having to do surgery. That didn't work out very well, so I had to go ahead and get a nose job. Everything started to fall apart in my life after that.
How does a nose and black eyes like you have affect you as a bartender?
My face paid my bills, right? I need to look good.
Mine too.
Right?
Now, Mr. Henderson, let me understand. You keep saying this is not my fault. She was negligent. Why is this not your fault? She goes for a day
Honor.
of excitement and fun with her friend, right, to add to their memories, and she leaves with a different face.
Two reasons. First reason is that in 17 years, we've had 500,000 people come through, over 500,000. Not a
Okay.
single person has been injured.
You got lucky.
And the second thing, and the most important thing, is that she got these tickets from a radio ad that in this radio ad, they actually clearly state that this is a frightening experience. Matter of fact, the catchphrase is in there, prepare to be scared.
You've submitted that ad to the
Yes,
court, right?
yes.
Let's hear it.
Experience your worst nightmare. Prepare to be scared as you enter the portal of darkness and paranoia. Prepare to be scared.
Now, Miss Gray,
Prepare to
did
be
you hear that ad?
Your Honor, I do not listen to the radio. Again, my friend Heather was the one who entered the contest, listened to the radio station, and got the.
So that's the first time you've heard that.
It is the first time.
But, Your Honor, the ticket that she redeemed when she got to our establishment clearly has stated on it, prepare to be scared. This is a ticket that
You
she
weren't
had.
prepared to be scared. I was prepared to
Sheriff
be
Matt,
scared.
Did you look at the ticket?
You
Sheriff
weren't
Matt, please see
prepared
the
to
ticket.
have us there.
Did you
It's
look
as
at
simple
the
as
ticket?
that.
Did
You were
read
not
the ticket?
prepared to have us
Did
there.
you read the ticket?
Order in this court. Now, Miss Gray, you knew you were going to be scared, right?
Of course, I
And
was.
the fact that a chainsaw is there and somebody looking like they want to kill somebody, that wasn't surprising to you, was
No,
it?
not at all, Your Honor. I was totally prepared to be scared. I was not prepared to be in the hospital. I was not prepared to have to pay $38,000 in medical bills.
If you wanted to
bills.
go to the happiest place on earth, you should have went somewhere else.
I'm looking at your ticket. It says prepared to be scared.
Thank you.
Sheriff Matt, show this to Miss Gray and then get it back to me because I got some questions about it.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray, you remember having that ticket, right? Mm-hmm. And based on that ticket, and frankly, your understanding and experience with haunted houses, you knew they were going to scare the hell out of you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
This was not the issue. His characters, to my opinion, were really lacking a lot of training, grabbed me and terrified me in such a way that is not safe.
Mr. Henderson, on your ticket it says prepared to be scared.
Yes,
If
sir.
she didn't see the radio ad, and you know how people are with pieces of paper, they just hand them
Yeah.
to the
Big bold
ticket
print on
taker,
that
right?
ticket, Your Honor. There's big bold print on that ticket. And plastered all over every entrance are warning signs that say, prepare to be scared.
You see this warning sign here? Is this one of your
Yes, that's one of them.
signs?
Yes.
And where would something like this be?
I believe that one might be at our VIP entrance, sir.
Now, Miss Gray, that's as plain as the nose on my face. I mean, you had to see that sign, right?
Your Honor, there was no sign at the VIP entrance.
We purposely put signs at every entrance because we want people to be prepared. We want people to be fully aware of what they're getting themselves into,
Okay.
which is why we've had such an impeccable safety record. We train our employees on how to spot potential dangers for our guests, you know, and be proactive in situations to watch out for guests, which is what happened for Miss Gray. This
Your
actually
employee
happened.
created the situation.
Now, Mr. Henderson, Miss Gray is kind of pointing the real finger at your employees. It's my understanding you brought a couple of those
I did.
employees here. I really would like to hear from them since they were there.
absolutely. Yeah, so this is Vito Greco. He's our chainsaw cosplay actor.
Hello, Your Honor.
And
Mr.
this is
Greco,
Kitty Powell.
please step to the podium. You were the chainsaw guy?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you actually had a real chainsaw in there?
No, it was actually a prop.
Is this you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you go through training for this job?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of things are you trained to do other than try to scare people?
Besides scaring people, just trying to spot dangers, to see if people are actually too frightened, where they get themselves trip, fall, anything along those lines.
Now, if somebody looks like they're too frightened, are you trained to kind of back off?
Yeah, just break character and
He did
not scare them.
Sorry, Your Honor, he did not.
When you're doing your thing, is that chainsaw on? Does it do?
Actually, I brought it with me if you'd like to take a look.
Pick it up for me.
Yeah, it's this one, and it makes noises.
Show me how you did it, but I know Miss Gray's not as big and muscular as Sheriff Matt. Get as close to Sheriff Matt as you got to Mrs. Gray. Turn it on. And what are you doing with the chainsaw?
Right here.
Okay. Matt, you don't look very scared, okay? You may step back to the podium. So tell me what you remember happened that day, Mr. Greco.
Me and Kenny usually work together, and we usually have our same routine.
What's he doing while you're in Miss Gray's face with the chainsaw?
He's the werewolf.
Okay.
So he pretty much, he waits on my cue and then pops up after me.
Now, let me hear from Kenny.
So, yeah, my job, like as he said, is to usually, I stand on the other side.
Okay.
So when they back up, I'm there to scare them.
And what do you do to let them know you're present? What do you remember happened this night? Did you jump out like you usually do?
Well, so this night was a little bit different. She actually started to run, and then she was backpedaling, and I
Okay.
just saw she was going to injure herself really bad, so I put my hands on her shoulder, and then she just freaked out and turned around, and that's...
So if she's backpedaling and you put your hands out, you caught her.
Yeah, I saved her.
You
I helped
grabbed
her.
me. No,
I helped you.
You did not help
address
me.
your
Yes, I
comments to
did.
the court.
Your injuries could have been much
Address your
worse.
comments to the court.
Your Honor, he
Yes, ma'am.
grabbed me.
Sheriff Matt, would you get that hairy hand for me? So the grab or was it on the side? Was it on the top? I mean, this kind of thing?
Yes, it was on the top, Your Honor. And I don't understand how he claims to be helping me by grabbing me.
Mr. Powell, I put this thing up on my shoulder like this. Is that about how you tried to catch her?
Yeah, it was a little bit like more right on the edges of her shoulder, just to
Right.
kind of stabilize her.
When you caught her, did you say, "Roar," like that?
No, not at that point, no.
What are they doing after you hit the wall? What are Mr. Powell and Mr. Greco doing?
Well, they are now trying to help me. And thank God Heather showed up. So, you know, when I opened my eyes from being dizzy, I saw her.
We keep talking about Heather. I want to hear from Heather. When you arrived on the scene after your friend had hit that wall, what was going through your mind?
She basically had a concussion, so it was so hard just to see my friend in so much distress.
Did she ever say she was caught or grabbed or anything of that sort?
She just kept saying she was grabbed by these hairy hands, and
Okay.
I was very confused on what she was talking about until I saw the werewolf.
Thank you, Ms. Heather, for your testimony. You may be seated. I've heard all the testimony that I need. I'm ready to make a decision. The legal framework for any personal injury case is that Ms. Gray has to prove that you were wrong, that you did something wrong, and that your wrong caused her injuries. Clearly, you're injured. Here, there was competing evidence. That is, you go into a haunted house, you expect that you and your girlfriend are going to have another memorable experience, and then someone grabs you and you end up running into a wall, crushing your nose. Mr. Henderson, all day you've been protesting about you have no responsibility. You put up signs, you put out a radio ad, you did everything you could to let her know that this was going to be a scary experience. When I looked at this ticket, I was impressed that prepared to be scared, yet another affirmation that you're getting what you paid for. I looked at it closely, the warning in the fine print. Warning, event may be too intense for children under 12 years of age. That's clear. No touching the characters. And that reminds me of my brother who actually punched one of the characters in a haunted house. But this last line of it makes me ticklish about this, and it goes into the proof of wrong. It says, characters will not touch you. The evidence is clear that the werewolf touched Mrs. Gray. The way it was described with the hand on the shoulder, I understand why you panicked, but I'm not giving you the full $96,000 because you were 49% responsible, because you decided to run into the wall. I find in your favor and against Mr. Henderson for $48,960, which is 51% of what you originally sought from this court. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Terry Krupin has to say.
The legal lesson here is what's good for the goose is good for the werewolf. The defendant wanted to rely on a release of liability written on the ticket, but he got bitten by his own rules when the same ticket also promised patrons wouldn't be touched. Don't forget, the court will look at the whole document and not just the parts that are favorable to you.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Madison versus Connor. Mr. and Mrs. Madison, it's my understanding that you, Mr. Madison, sustained severe injuries to your eye when a pitchfork destroyed it at an event on Mr. Connor's farm. It's my understanding that you are seeking past medical expenses of $600,000, future medical expenses of $300,000, and pain and suffering for $1.1 million for a total award of $2 million. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Connor, your position in this case is that he knew what was going on. This is a freak accident that's not really anybody's fault, but certainly not yours.
That's correct. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, you all used to be buddies, right? How long have y'all known each other?
Well, we met back in college, Your Honor, and we used to hang out all the time. We had many conversations, and one of those led to charity, and that's how we came up with the idea to enter into the barnyard games.
Now, barnyard games, what are barnyard games?
We modeled this around anything you might find laying around a barnyard.
Okay.
And we tried to come up with interesting activities to do with those tools. For instance, rake relay and the garden shear toss and pitch ball.
You all are throwing tools around?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it's a charity event. Who's the charity for?
It's for underprivileged kids.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Each donor that comes in, they pay a flat fee.
Okay.
To enter the games, and then 75% goes to the charity, and we keep 25%.
And Mr. Connor, you remember these barnyard games that you and Mr. Madison came up with?
I thought the charity was a great idea. I mean, it always gets back to kids like I grew up. I didn't have a whole lot growing up, and that's what made us come up with it, but I agreed to host it, and it was on my grandfather's land. He's got 100 acres. It's perfect for this kind of event.
This your grandfather's farm?
It is. I grew up there. I've had a lot of fun there as a child.
So tell me what happened on the day you got injured.
On the day of the event, a large crowd gathered around the pitch ball field.
And by pitch ball, what do you mean?
Okay, so pitch ball is exactly like baseball, except you use a pitchfork as a bat and a soccer ball as the baseball.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what happened?
On the day of the event, the crowd gathered. They were excited for the game. We started playing. I started pitching the first few pitches. And the defendant here swung at one of those pitches and smacked the ball. The pitchfork vibrated in a way that I had not heard before. It made a metal on wood sound that it just didn't sound good. We continued on after I warned him to take it easy again, the second time with him swinging with all his might like he was going for a home run hit or something. So then that's when the pitchfork actually broke on impact.
And then what happens to you?
And then I see the end of the pitchfork flying towards my face, and it made impact. I felt the bone crush on impact. I felt the piece of metal slide into my eye socket.
Michael, I said I was sorry, and I've tried to help.
Mr. Connor, you saw this. You saw your buddy get hit in the face with a pitchfork.
Yes, I did, and it scared me to death. I thought I killed him. I ran to him immediately. I hollered for them to call 911. I did what I could.
Mr. Madison, you remember him being concerned about you?
Your Honor, I was in unbearable pain. I didn't know who was screaming. I was bleeding. I couldn't see out of my right eye.
Your Honor, there was a conversation prior to the games that day where we had noticed that some of the equipment was older, and the defendant had said that he was going to replace the pitchfork.
And you were there for that conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I overheard the whole thing.
Look, I did say I was going to replace it, and I did forget. But I also said that we did not have to play this game. There was other games that we could have played, and I did tell him we could skip it.
So Mr. Madison talked about this sound when you swung the pitchfork and hit the ball. Did you hear that sound?
I mean, it scared me to death because the time broke off and it flew into his eye. And
So Mr. Madison, he hears the crack, you hear the crack. Why didn't y'all just stop?
Because we had everyone out there, sir, and he had already agreed to take it easy before the game even started.
Okay, so
I reminded
Mrs.
him.
Madison, you remember him saying, "I'll take it easy"?
Yeah, I absolutely overheard my husband tell him to take it easy, and he said that he would, but he was too busy trying to impress some girl that was in the audience.
I wasn't.
Well, Mrs. Madison, do you remember Mr. Connor coming to care after his friend?
Honestly, I was in such a state of shock seeing my husband collapse on the ground. I thought my husband was dead on the ground in front of me.
This is a freak accident. I did not hurt nobody on purpose.
This wasn't a freak
I wouldn't wish
accident.
this on my worst enemy. This was not.
So you were
could have
frightened too.
replaced it.
When you saw the pitchfork hit Mr. Madison in the face, you were frightened.
I thought I killed him. The ball was coming towards me. He threw it. He was smiling. I was smiling. Everybody's having a good time. He threw the ball, and I swung. And as soon as it made contact, I felt the pop. I heard it. And immediately after I heard everybody scream, it just happened so fast. And it scared me to death. And I ran to him. I didn't know if I killed him or not. I didn't know what happened.
So when you swing, that pitchfork comes off the end, it comes flying and hits him in the face. You're at home plate watching this.
Yes.
So then you run to his
I
aid.
ran straight to him and I screamed out. I told him, I said, call 911.
Now you got a pitchfork here. Was it that kind of pitchfork that you were swinging?
It was.
On the plasma here, we got a picture of what looks like the pitchfork. Is that what hit you in the eye, Mr. Madison?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that your blood on that pillow there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Next, we have an x-ray. This is your head?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this pitchfork destroyed your eye.
I've lost my eye, Your Honor.
That x-ray could make you pretty nauseous, I imagine. Does for me. I can't imagine the pain. Mrs. Madison, I see you cringing. What was going through your mind when your husband's lying there with this pitchfork sticking in his eye?
Well, my first thought was I didn't even know if he was alive or dead. You can see the length of that. I don't know if it's just in his eye, if it's gone all the way through his skull. I have no idea.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, could you even imagine seeing your husband laying on the ground in front of you? For all I knew, I could be at his funeral today instead of here in court.
Look, we was all at risk when we played, though, and I tried to help him.
No one would have been at risk if you-
How did you try to help him?
I did everything I could. I worked and tried to give cash towards the family to help them with the expenses. I did what I could
Mr.
to
Connor,
try to
this
help.
sounds like this breaks your heart too.
He's my best friend. We've been through so much together.
This is truly a tragedy.
This
Truly
is
a
not
tragedy.
my fault. It was his idea the whole time.
Did you know, Mr. Connor, that this pitchfork was bad?
I did, and I told him I would replace it. But I also told him I forgot, and I told him that we could play anything else. What he went to was this is his moneymaker, and he kept repeating that. He wanted to play for greed.
So, Mr. Madison, if you knew that the pitchfork was concerning, why did you continue?
Because he had agreed to take it easy. Because he had failed to get the new pitchfork.
And did you take it easy?
I was playing to win, but it wasn't.
He wasn't playing to win. He was playing to impress a girl from the audience.
I was not impressed.
Well, listen, guys, that touches me. We men have gotten to a lot of difficult spots trying to impress a woman, okay? Miss Madison, you saw this swing. How do you characterize
You
it?
would think he was trying to hit it out of Fenway Park. You would think he was playing professional
I
baseball.
was playing for my charity.
It's for charity. People had already paid to be there. They weren't going to pay more just because he hit it harder.
At the last Barnyard games, there's not really a winner other than the kids, right?
Exactly.
Right.
How much did you all raise in the first Barnyard game?
$370,000.
That's real. Congratulations to both of you for doing such a good thing. I've been a Santa for 20 years. Beard, makeup, everything. The kids think I'm a superstar, but I get more out of it than they do. So giving back is very important. Mr. Madison, you have asked this court to award you $600,000 for past medical expenses and $300,000 for future medical expenses. I want to get the doctor in to tell us about your injuries and what we're looking at. So let's get Dr. Neelam Vaughn in.
All right, yes, sir.
Good day, doctor. How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Could you state your name for the record?
Dr. Neelam Vaughn.
Doctor, describe the nature and extent of Mr. Madison's injuries.
Well, first, he suffered a traumatic brain injury, but not one where you can't walk or talk or do for yourself, but one where it basically stunned his brain, like a concussion. And secondly, he ruptured his globe of his eye, so he totally lost his vision and has to have the eye removed. You can see how close that pitchfork is all the way here, and your brain is just right there.
What are the long-term effects, Doc?
Well, there's retraining yourself how to drive, how to walk. There's intimacy issues between he and his wife, and just socially going about with one eye missing, it really does affect you.
Thank you, doctor. We appreciate you.
My
You are
pleasure.
released.
Thank you.
Mrs. Madison, an injury to a husband is an injury to a family. Tell me how this has been for you as the chief of the family caring for your husband.
It's been a nightmare. I mean, since day one, obviously he's very disfigured, but it's not just the physical parts. Obviously, she said, there's balance issues, there's the fact that he can't do the things that he loves to do anymore, but really the mental side effects of that are so much worse. He's depressed. He doesn't want to leave the house except to go to doctor's appointments.
I offered for us to reschedule and postpone it. Until we could have got another Pitchfork. I offered for us to play anything else.
This whole thing could have been avoided.
Exactly, and he pushed and pushed. This is his moneymaker.
Anything,
Mr. Madison, were you pushing to get this done this day?
Not at all. He had months to get this new equipment. He had months to get the new equipment.
But on the day of the swing, did you push him despite hearing this Pitchfork
I did not push him.
Sound?
The only thing I said is I will agree to play if you agree to take it easy because you're using an old Pitchfork. Like I was saying, he had months to get the new equipment, and he failed to do so. And then on the day of the event, after we have hundreds, almost 1,000 donors there, then he tells me he don't have the right equipment.
So this happens in front of the donors with hundreds of people there?
Yes, after we sent out flyers and posted on social media about this, then he tells me that he failed to do the one job that I gave him.
Your Honor, there is only one person at fault here, and it's the defendant for his recklessness.
Y'all could have stopped this, right?
Exactly.
When you heard the Pitchfork make the sound.
He was the one who swung it. It was not in anyone else's hands.
But before he swung it, you all could have said, hold on, that made a weird sound, right?
We did say that.
We did, and we stopped him.
And Mr. Connor, frankly, you heard the sound too. You could have stopped it.
That we could play any other game. This is what he wanted to play. He kept saying it's his money maker. That came out of his mouth. That was his word. I was here for the charity. I was here for the children. He was here for the greed and the money. That is what got him hurt.
That is a
He's
desperate
a victim
plea.
of his own greed.
That is a desperate plea from a guilty
man. I
man.
could be on the other side of this.
I know it's important to you. I can see it on your face. Mr. Madison, Mrs. Madison, you all are asking this court for $1.1 million for pain and suffering.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience. That's a lot of money.
From the day that it happened, it's been nothing but trauma. Not just physically, but emotionally. I mean, my wife doesn't even look at me the same anymore.
Your Honor, our entire lives have changed because of this. This is not just medical injuries. He's going to have these for the rest of his life. We were talking about kids, and now that's not even a concern right now.
What's your daily experience like with having one eye?
I can't balance. She has to walk me from place to place. I reach for things and I miss them. Like as simple as reaching for a cup of coffee and I'm a foot off. And then looking in a mirror and seeing a nasty, empty hole where I used to have a nice eye.
And you blame your best friend for this?
Yes.
How about you
His
ask me about the
negligence
help I have
is what got us
provided
here.
Since he's been hurt.
Tell me about the help you provided to your friend.
I have given money to help with bills since he currently can't work. If he needs errands ran, I try to help.
It sounds like he's trying to make a good case for you, Your Honor.
A few $100s towards bills. We have $600,000 so far.
Accident.
Mrs. Madison, think about this. What's the biggest change in your husband since he lost his eye?
Probably his confidence.
Every personal injury case, the plaintiff has to prove three things. The plaintiff has to prove that the defendant was wrong and that the defendant's wrong caused your harm. This was an event that should not have had y'all meet me today. You all thought that swinging the pitchfork was going to be a safe thing, despite the cracking sound, you thought he was going to take it easy. Even though he told you that he was going to replace it, you knew he didn't replace it. But if he took it easy, this would go fine. Instead, what you all have said is he swung too hard and the top of this pitchfork came off and destroyed your eye and changed your life forever. Mr. Connor, your heart was in the right place. You were concerned about this pitchfork, but not such that you thought it would harm your best friend. I know you didn't intend this. You did this event with Mr. Madison before. You all as buddies have done a great thing. You were playing just like you had played before. But the law does not require people to intend the results of an act. What the law requires is that no one suspend their common sense and that you intend to do the act which causes harm. If that act is reckless, then despite your heart, your relationship, your feelings, the law would hold you responsible. You had the last act in the chain of events that caused this injury. Because you swung too hard, I must find against you. I find in favor of the plaintiffs, and I'm going to award you $600,000 for past medical expenses, $300,000 for future medical expenses, and $1.1 million for pain and suffering, for a total award of $2 million. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Hoyt Tessner has to say.
Two key facts turned this case for the plaintiff. First, as the pitcher, he assumed only the risk of the defendant hitting him with a soccer ball. There was no way for him to anticipate that the batter would swing hard enough to break the pitchfork. Also, Mr. Connor had promised to replace the old pitchfork and get a new one for this event. Mr. Connor failed to do so. The plaintiff got forked.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Reynolds versus Thomas. Ms. Reynolds, you brought your sister here with you. You're suing Mr. Thomas for injuries you sustained when this dumpster hit you and caused severe problems for you. You're asking this court to award you $40,000 for your past medicals, $60,000 for your future medicals, and $1.4 million for pain and suffering, for a total of $1.5 million. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Thomas, you believe you've taken all the safety precautions you needed to take. Had she gotten out the way, this never would have happened, true?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Ms. Reynolds, what brought you in contact with a dumpster this day?
Well, Your Honor, my sister and I were cleaning out our late brother's house.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. He was a hoarder. No exaggeration about it.
As in the classic sense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And it was more than we could handle.
That's a big job.
It was enormous. So I found the flyer from the defendant about his business, and it was something called Manly Men Waste Removal. We thought that'll be great. We contact him, thinking he's going to send us these, young, strapping, strong guys, studs, help us get this stuff out so we can sell the house.
Y'all wanted studs to move the trash.
Well, we thought if you would have seen it, that's what's needed. I'm just being honest.
So, Mr. Thomas, tell me about Manly Men. I mean, is this a group of studs that move trash?
Personally, Your Honor, I don't know what kind of men she was expecting. I've been in this business for 20 years. I've never had an accident or injury up to this point. I'm not sure what kind of men she was expecting, but I mean, you're no spring chicken yourself.
Yeah, but
well, hold on now. Listen. First thing we're going to do, hold on for a minute. First thing we are going to do is let you understand this is my courtroom.
Yes, sir.
In my courtroom, no one gets insulted.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So is this what your brother's house looked like?
Yes, Your Honor, and that's why we needed help. I was very honest with him about the situation. If it was something moderate, we could have done it ourselves. It was way beyond what we could handle.
So he shouldn't have been surprised that a big dumpster was needed.
No, and this is how he promotes his company. So I'm sorry, that's how we had an image by the way he promotes himself. So we were less than impressed when him and his partner show up and we get these two middle-aged, lazy slobs.
Okay, so hold on for a minute. There's goose and gander theory in this courtroom. Just like I don't want him to insult you, you can't insult him. We can't do that. This is a courtroom. We have decorum, and we got to respect each other, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Ms. Reynolds, the dumpster is delivered to your brother's house. Now, tell me what happened.
We had gone over the paperwork, and then all of a sudden he just left.
We didn't know where he was.
No, well, we saw him get in the truck, but he didn't give us any instructions, so I thought maybe he was going to get me a receipt or something for what we had agreed on. And the next thing that I know is this dumpster is coming down the driveway, headed straight for me. I mean, bam, it hits me, knocks me down. I hit my head on the pavement.
Mr. Thomas, I mean, this sounds like a booby trap. What happened?
I explained to her, I'm getting ready to put this dumpster down because I've got to leave it here for a couple of days. I need you to move off of the driveway.
You said that
I
to her.
said
Your
that.
Honor,
My
he
associate.
Did you hear that?
He never said that. I was waiting for him. He just walked away, and I turn around, and suddenly I see the dumpster coming straight at me. I tried to get out of the way, but I had just had foot surgery, so I couldn't. Plus, I was standing. He showed me those blocks he put up, and he said that was the safety for that. So I was way behind those blocks, and I thought I was safe.
You submitted a diagram to this court. I want you to put me there with you and walk through the diagram. Are you okay to come over to the plasma? Take your time.
Your Honor, I am.
I want you to tell me how this happened, because this seems like the freakiest thing ever.
It was.
It shouldn't have happened, Your Honor, but I absolutely warned her to get out of the way. I put the chalks down.
What's the purpose for that?
These, when the dumpster hits them, it applies weight because of the way they're stepped, and it stops it.
Okay,
we use
so you
these
have
for
put those
stopping
down.
dumpsters. We use them for stopping 18-wheelers.
All right.
You name it.
Okay. Now, Miss Reynolds.
Yes, sir.
Tell me how this happened. I see somebody with a cane there. I take it that's you.
Yes, that's me.
All right.
And here's the dumpster. So I see the dumpster rolling down the driveway straight at me. I mean, it hits me, knocks me to the ground, my head goes crashing on the driveway. It literally rolls right over me. And now I'm suffering because of his negligence.
You're suffering because you stood behind the dumpster. Who stands behind
Yes,
the
ma'am.
dumpster?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That weighs like
that this
tons.
could have been a death case. So, Mr. Thomas told you to stand back there?
No.
Yes, he was showing me the blocks, and he said, stay behind here and you'll be safe. And in waiting, I trusted him, and he's untrustworthy, because then this thing came crashing down towards me.
Sheriff Matt, would you help Miss Reynolds back to the podium?
Yes, sir.
Take your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Thomas, tell me why your blocks didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I actually brought a diagram to explain that.
All right, well, let's put your diagram up there. You show me how this happened.
So as you can see here, this is the dumpster. These are the wheels. This is a pothole that was in her driveway. Her driveway was in an extreme state of disrepair. And these are the chocks.
All right.
This is where she decided to stand. This is not where I told her to stand. You'll see this pothole right here.
Okay.
As the dumpster came down, it slid down and it hits this pothole. And when it did, it stopped the left wheel. And the right side kind of veered over and missed the chalk and hit her.
Judge, I can't
This is why you don't
so
stand
this is
behind
kind of
the
a
dumpster.
freaky,
It is.
freaky accident.
It is. But this is why you don't stand behind the dumpster, Your Honor.
There are potholes everywhere.
But, Your Honor, he's talking as if now, all of a sudden, this pothole caught him by surprise.
Yeah.
Well, what a joke.
Yeah, with all
he
his
had
years
to pass
experience?
that pothole
Come
to
on.
get that freaking dumpster up by the house. How come he missed it on the way up and he's so shocked by it on the way down? So he's like blaming me. This was not even my house.
Miss Reynolds.
This is my brother's house. He's blaming me for the potholes in the driveway?
Well, it's not really blame. It's who saw the pothole and knew what it meant to this situation. The more you lean on this pothole, the more it becomes obvious to everybody. You saw it too, right?
Yes, it had been there forever.
And I can't believe that's the only street he's ever had where there was a pothole.
Ms. Reynolds, you've submitted to this court $40,000 in medical bills. I'm flipping through them. You've been through a lot. You're asking this court to award you another $60,000 for your future meds. So you've got a long road ahead of you.
My leg is healing, and the doctors tell me as soon as my leg actually heals, I've got to have hip replacement surgery because
That's
of
a
the
big deal.
fall. Yes, sir. And the damage that it did to my hip. So I'm trying to get one part to heal before we move on to the next part.
Yes, ma'am.
sir.
Well, to better understand the nature of your injuries from a medical perspective, this court has consulted a sports medicine physician, Dr. Wesley Bailey. Sheriff Matt, will you get Dr. Bailey for us?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good day, Dr. Bailey.
Good day, sir.
Can you explain the nature of Miss Reynolds' injuries?
Well, Your Honor, the plaintiff suffered multiple injuries all over her body. These include a fracture of her left arm, as well as multiple fractures of her leg.
Miss Reynolds mentioned the need for hip replacement surgery. What does that involve?
Basically, the surgeon will make 1 to 2 incisions or carefully placed cuts into the hip joint. They'll scrape out the cartilage in the hip socket, and these parts will be replaced with prostheses made of either metal or high-grade plastic, and then a new top-end will be placed into the hip bone.
What's her pain experience going to be like even after these injuries heal?
She may still experience chronic pain at all or some of these fracture sites.
All right, doctor, thank you so much. Thanks for visiting us. You are released.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Thomas, this was a disaster for Miss Reynolds. You see that?
I do. And I'm really sorry that she got hurt. But again, this is not my fault.
Now, you pointed out this giant pothole.
Yes, sir.
You saw that driving up there, didn't you?
To be honest with you, no, sir, I did not. I did not notice it.
So if these blocks had acted the way they were supposed to, and if the bin did not pivot, would they have just stopped it where the blocks are?
It would have moved maybe a ½ inch and then stopped. She would have been safe if everything had worked perfectly. But we live in a world where things don't work perfectly. That's why I told her to move out of the way.
Now, Mr. Thomas makes an interesting point. It's not like this was a Maserati moving down the driveway.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
When this is coming at you, what were you thinking?
Get the hell out of the way! And I couldn't move fast enough. I was trying to get to the side of the driveway, but because of the surgery that I've already had, I couldn't move that fast. So all of a sudden, it slams into me, hits me, literally rolls over my leg. It mangles my leg.
So Ms. Reynolds, you've asked this court to award you $1.4 million for your pain and suffering.
Yes, sir.
Please tell me about that. That's a lot of money.
Yes, sir, it is. I had already had this surgery I was recovering from, and then because of his negligence, I had to have that surgery all over again and worse. And I'm told that I need to expect this for the rest of my life. So I'm going to be paying the price for his negligence because this meathead, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
We're not going to do that.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, it slipped out.
I know this is important to you, but we can't resort to insult.
No, you're right, Your Honor, and
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't normally behave like that, but
Yes, ma'am.
I'm.
Thank you.
I've been
Her motive is purely money, Your Honor.
I've been told that I'm looking at a lifetime of pain.
You just said her motive was purely money?
She wants to sue me for $1.4 million?
Well, you do see that she's got pretty severe injuries, right?
And I am sorry that she's hurt, but $1.4 million? This is purely motivational
Your
money.
Honor,
That's all this
we
is
were
about.
solving the money.
Well, you know, I was feeling you there for a minute until you turned on the ice cubes. I haven't heard you say one time during this whole proceeding to her, look, regardless of whether this is my fault, I'm really sorry you're hurt.
I have tried
You gotta
to say
feel
that.
bad about that.
Your Honor, I have tried to say that.
Now, let me tell you something else. Even if you apologize, when people come into a courtroom and they truly feel sorry about something, they're afraid to say, I'm sorry, because they think that indicates fault. Under the law, it does not. It indicates you have a heart and that you're human. So if you want an opportunity to say, I'm sorry.
Sorry she got hurt.
Tell her.
Look, I am sorry you got hurt.
I don't believe anything you have
Well,
to
I don't
say
really
to me.
believe
I've
anything
done all
you
the
have to say
talking
either because you've come out of the
Sorry
bed.
that he's even
Order
here.
in this
That's
court.
what he's sorry about.
Your Honor.
I've heard enough. I've heard everything I need to render a decision, and I'm ready to do that. Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Ms. Reynolds, you've got to prove three things. You've got to prove that the defendant was wrong and that the defendant's wrong caused your harm. But being harmed alone does not mean you win. What I've got to figure out is whether you prove that Mr. Thomas was wrong. Here, you've put up evidence that he told you to stand where you stood in this driveway beyond these barriers that are designed to stop this bin if it slides a little bit, as Mr. Thomas anticipated. You didn't think this thing was going to keep rolling despite how steep this driveway was. Yes. But the thing that neither of you all anticipated is that a pothole would change both your lives.
Yes.
Under the law, when you have an activity such as a dumpster that's 5,000 pounds on a steep driveway that's in disrepair, you are the professional. You are called to notice those things and to take those into consideration in your safety equation, because safety's first.
Yes, Your Honor.
You did not anticipate the pothole, and because of that, your safe operation turned into something that was very, very unsafe. Ms. Reynolds, I find that you have proven the wrong. You've proven that Mr. Thomas was wrong in not anticipating that pothole. Whether he warned you or not, he should have known about that pothole. I find you've proven his wrong. But he is not wrong by himself. Some common sense has to kick in, even if you're hobbled with a bad foot. You can't be standing at the bottom of a driveway with a 5,000-pound weight about to come at you, blocks or not. This case is a classic comparative fault case, comparing your fault to your fault. Here I find you are 80% responsible, and Ms. Reynolds, I find that you are 20% responsible. So I find in your favor in the amount of $1.2 million and against Mr. Thomas, and that is my final verdict. This matter is concluded. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Leonard Lundy has to say.
The defendant had superior knowledge of the dangers of unloading a large metal dumpster off his truck, and yet he failed to warn the plaintiff of those dangers. He drove up the driveway and should have seen it was on a steep slope and in disrepair. As a professional driver, he should have made sure the plaintiff was out of the way before releasing the dumpster.